Good evening. I'd like to call to order the City Council regular meeting of Lake Forest on April 7th, public session. And we're to be led by invocation by Pastor Steve from Calvary Chapel, Foothill Ranch.
Thank you, Mayor and the City Council. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you. Would you bow your heads with me as we pray? Lord, I'm reminded that your word tells us, except the Lord keep the city, the watchman labors in vain. Lord, I thank you for these watchmen here, gathered in this room, Lord, to keep the city and guard it, protect it, establish it in all the ways, Lord, that we want for the best of the people of this community. Lord, we ask your blessing upon this city. We ask for wisdom upon each one that will be speaking and deliberating this evening. We ask for direction, Lord. Lord, we also ask for unity, because we all want what's best for this community. Lord, let there be a unity of decision and understanding. When the deliberation is finalized, that there would be a sense of unity in our hearts. And Lord, I want to thank you for the sacrifice and the service of these men and women that are here tonight to serve and guard over the people of this city. And I ask, Lord, that you bless their families that are home. Bless their businesses, Lord, as they've taken and sacrificed time away from them. I ask, Lord, that you would bless their rest and refreshment and their time. And so I'd like to pronounce a blessing over you. It comes from the book of Numbers. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you. May the Lord be gracious to you, and may he lift up his countenance upon you and grant you his peace tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you. And I know that you were at the Sun and Sail Club for Easter sunrise services.
We were, and I think we had record attendance.
It was a beautiful. I meant to be there, but it was
gorgeous.
It was a beautiful morning there.
Yeah.
I highly recommend Easter service sunrise here in Lake Forest at the Sun and Sail Club. So thank you, Pastor Steve.
Thank you very much.
With that brings us to the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilman Robertson.
Well, if you join me in rising and pledging allegiance to our flag. Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Closed session. Was there anything to report?
Nothing tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Presentations.
Agenda Item 2, proclamation designating the month of April 2015 as DMV Donate Life Month, California, submitted by City Clerk.
Move the presentations.
Vote, please.
That motion carried unanimously.
So there'll be a presentation of our certificate. Is Mr. Salazar here? Would you like to have a few words?
Before or after?
Right now?
Well, I'd like to thank the mayor and the city council for making the proclamation. The Donate Life project is something obviously close to me because 3 years ago I received a new heart and a new kidney, which saved my life, frankly. There's 21,000 people on the organ donor list in California, and unfortunately 7,000 of them will die while they're still waiting. So beyond just organ donation, it's tissue, so skin, bone, ligaments, corneas, eyes. So one person can donate up to 50. So this is a really important initiative. DMV currently has 12 million people registered, but still not enough on any given day. So I am also the ambassador for the DMV office in Costa Mesa, so I coordinate activities for them. This is a huge month for Donate Life. I've been asked to invite all the city council to attend the 13th annual Donate Life Run Walk, which is April 25th at Cal State Fullerton. If any of you would like to attend, I'm sorry, I should probably get an email address from the city clerk, and I can communicate with you and let you know what you'd have to do to register. So hopefully we can see you there and support this. Thank you.
So you're a living testimony of what Donate Life can do. And so we're thankful that you're here with us, and because someone signed up to donate. And so I think that it's something we all should do, because from ashes to ashes, dust to dust. When we are going to the grave, and we can give another chance of life to someone. So congratulations to you. Thank you for being here and witnessing to us what it actually produces.
Thank you. Appreciate
That brings us to the report from our student liaison. Joseph, he's not.
Perhaps he's running late tonight.
All right. So, no, that's not the last meeting.
Usually they're here through the beginning of June. So.
That brings us to public comments. At this time, members of the public may address the City Council regarding any items in the subject matter of the City Council. No action can be taken on items not listed on the agenda unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person and an overall time limit of 30 minutes for public comments portion of the agenda. Any person wishing to address the City Council on any matter, whether or not it appears on the agenda, is requested to complete a request to speak form available after the door, and the completed form should be submitted to the city clerk over here, Deborah Rose. And Madam Clerk, do we have any requests?
Marcia Rudolph, followed by Mike Long.
Good evening. This is the usual, rats and spiders and such report.
The critter report.
Vector is now completely over with its new logo and the new stuff that it really, I like it. I'm glad we did it. At any rate, West Nile virus is really nothing to laugh at. The statistics for 2014, there were 282 cases of West Nile virus and 7 deaths, and that's just in the county, in our county. Vector is aggressively going after any and all possible places where we might find these spiders, because it's not funny. It is really quite a problem, and the suggestions coming from Vector are to go after and get rid of any standing water, particularly if it's looking like it's not terrific. That's one of the things we need to do, because that will attract the mosquitoes, and the mosquitoes are what we get West Nile virus, or part of it. Also, make sure that screens are on your windows. Not screens with holes in them, but screens, that are intact. that also is a way of protecting your family. Third, definitely wear some kind of sunscreen and some kind of repellent, particularly your little ones. Make sure that they've got something on if they're out playing in the yard. And if you see a dead bird, and it's not chewed up or anything, call Vector. They will come and take it away from you. It's important that we continually get those critters, because what happens when they're taken back by the Vector people, they are checked for the possibility of West Nile. And that's important that we find out who's got that and who hasn't. The drought has been one of the things that's contributing to West Nile as far as the critters are concerned. It's important that we stay very aggressive in our fight against the West Nile virus critters. And it's important also, because of the drought, that we continually fight it. And Vector Control does have contracts with aerial spraying organizations. And if we get to the point where we have the need, Vector will have aerial spraying. Now, last year there was aerial spraying in the Santa Ana area and a little part of Anaheim. I don't know what will happen this time, but it depends on the availability of and the problems that we have with these critters. Anyway, Vector Control is on the case, and I will continue to keep you updated. But get your screens patched. Get the insect repellent for yourself and your family, and hopefully we won't have any more deaths this year. Thank you.
Well, thank you for serving on Vector Control for us and coming back with your reports. You know, one of the things that Vector Control does so well is keep our rat population here in Lake Forest down. So I recommend, if you guys see signs of rat droppings or that, or see rats running around, call Vector Control. They would be happy to come out. So I think there's a comment by Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, and so I just saw that occurrence in our neighborhood and called out Vector Control, and I'd like to tell everyone that we did receive some traps, and you can do that for your neighborhood too. So,
Mike Long.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Lake Forest City Council. My name is Mike Long. I've been a resident of Lake Forest since 1991. My wife Lisa and I have been living in the countryside residential area since 1992. Over the span of these past 23 years, we have raised our family of 3 girls and a boy here. Our youngest, the son, will be graduating from El Toro High School in June of this year. We count ourselves amongst those residents as very satisfied with the quality of life and services available here in Lake Forest. We had rented a house in Countryside for a period of 10 years, and then we purchased our home on Teed Street in July of 2002. In August of 2003, we had a 630 square foot room addition added to our home. On January 13 of this year, I received a letter from Douglas Erdman, a principal civil engineer, Public Works Department for the City of Lake Forest. This letter informed me that the city is looking into various options to address storm water flooding in the neighborhood, a situation which has occurred in the past. The letter goes on to state that one option under consideration would include work within the drainage easement across our property. Our home was built in 1973. This would be the first time since its construction that such work is being considered. Since receiving the letter, I have had 3 meetings with city representatives, 2 here in City Hall and 1 at our property. My first meeting on January 15 was with Mr. Erdman and Angel Fuentes, an Assistant City Engineer, Public Works Department, here in the City Hall to discuss the project. The outcome of that initial meeting is that of the various options being considered, City Project number PW 2011.06 the one involving work within the drainage easement across our property, was the preferred solution. In order to implement that solution, I was told that a trench 14 feet deep would be dug down Teed Street and then through our front yard, backyard, side yard, and then continue diagonally through the intersection of Lake Forest Drive and Rockfield Boulevard, eventually terminating at an existing larger catch basin. The purpose of this trenching would be to install a new 2.5-foot diameter pipe in parallel with the present 7.5-foot diameter storm drain pipe. On January 21, I had my second meeting, this one being at our property on Teed Street, with Mr. Erdman and Tom Braun, an engineering consultant. We walked the property and they photographed the proposed route for this new pipe. It was during this meeting that I was told that the easement on my property was 32 feet wide. Up until that meeting, I was of the belief and in possession of documentation indicating the easement was 15 feet in width. This larger easement impacts several structures on the property. During our meeting, less destructive egress routes and techniques to minimize property damage were discussed. Nearly done. With your permission, I would like to finish,
Please,
sir.
continue.
Thank you. I offered the use of areas outside the easement for storage of equipment, dirt, and debris to facilitate the minimization of property damage. Upon conclusion of the walking tour, I presented my copy of the recorded easement deed showing the 15-foot width, which was noted by Mr. Erdman and Mr. Braun. I also presented my copy of the original sales brochure, which pictures the property as it looked when purchased in July of 2002, to establish provenance of the aforementioned structures. Since that meeting, I have confirmed the much larger 32-foot easement. After my third and last meeting, on January 28 here in City Hall with Mr. Erdman and Thomas Wheeler, Director of Public Works Department, I was told that the project would begin in April of 2016. I come here before you this evening to ask that all possible less destructive egress routes and techniques be employed. But if any or all structures need to be removed, that they would be replaced and that we would be made whole again at the completion of this project, the cost of which would be part of the project. I thank you for your time and consideration. Mike and Lisa Long.
I thank you for coming, and we'll go over this with Public Works, and so we'll get back to you on that.
Much
Thank you for
appreciated
bringing
for
it.
your time.
Thank you so much.
There are no further requests.
Well, then that brings us to the warrant registry. All matters listed in the warrant registry are considered routine and will be acted by one vote. There will be no separate action or discussion of these items unless a member of the City Council, the public, or staff requests specific items to be removed from the warrant registry for separate action. Madam Clerk, have we had any requests for pulled from the warrant registry?
No, Your Honor.
Council? So I'll entertain motions.
I'll move it. Yes, I apologize. There is a payment to Cummings and White, I believe. I'm abstaining on that. I apologize, I forgot. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I'll entertain
With that.
motions.
With that, I'll move it.
And second,
Second.
we'll cast your votes.
That motion carries unanimously.
And that brings us to the consent calendar, miscellaneous. All matters listed in the consent calendar are considered routine and will be enacted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the City Council or the public requests staff to remove it from the consent calendar for separate action. Madam Clerk, have we had any requests to pull any item?
We've had no requests.
Council?
Can I pull 6?
Five, please.
Okay. Entertain motion.
Item 4.
Second.
Cast your votes.
That motion carried unanimously. Agenda item 5, minutes of the regular meeting of the City Council held on March 3rd, 2015, submitted by City Clerk and removed from the consent calendar by Councilmember Nick.
Go ahead.
Thank you. In spite of the outstanding job that Madam Clerk and her office have done encapsulating what transpired on March 3rd as to the one item relating to censure against me, despite the great job she has done and her office has done reflecting upon all that transpired, I move that instead the clerk's office provide a verbatim, in other words, a word for word transcript of that one item, and I can go about securing it, certified, of course. The city can choose its preferred vendor. I don't have any preferences. Any firm that is certified in the state of California can do it. Again, the city can, the clerk's office or any department, as a city manager or the city attorney or the city clerk sees fit, I'm fine with that. And I'll pay for the transcripts out of pocket ahead of time. So that's my motion. As such, because we cannot record two sets of minutes for the same meeting, I inherently move also to postpone vote on this one item until such a time that certified transcripts have been furnished to the council.
I'm going to look for a direction from council. We have before us the approval of the minutes, and he wants to have them certified other than us, by us to the council.
Mr. Mayor, council members, the motion, as I understand it, is to postpone or continue voting on these minutes, and in the interim, direct staff to create verbatim minutes in the stead of the existing detailed minutes. That is a motion on the floor. That's a motion that's permissible to make, just requiring a second and then action. If the motion were to be seconded and adopted, then these minutes would be continued to a subsequent meeting, at which point staff, again, if adopted, would come back with verbatim minutes.
But if these are not the minutes, you're saying these aren't the minutes that happened at that council meeting?
No, sir, I did not say that. These are a good reflection, I said. These are a relatively, well, let's leave out relatively. These are, it's a fair representation of what transpired, but I'm not asking for a fair, good representation. I want an exact word for word who said what. That's what verbatim means, word for word. I want to know exactly who said what. All I'm asking is for the truth to be reflected 100%.
I have a question or comment, whatever it is. That seems like an onerous chore for Stephanie, but aren't there professional, if you're interested in that, couldn't you hire a professional person, service to go do it and then deliver it?
Thank you.
It seems to me that would be better than...
Thank you. In fact, I'll do whatever the council or the staff desires. I can have a certified firm do it. I can look to the city, pick it certified. It doesn't matter to me. These companies are all certified. They're not gonna deviate from the truth.
Well, my only concern is that ties up Stephanie and the city staff.
In fact, I wasn't to make sure there is because it is time consuming, and to make sure the staff's time is not spent in this effort. I strongly suggest that we hire an outside firm to do it. They do this for a living at a fee. I've used them before over the years, and there's a bunch of them out there. A couple of very, very good ones, in fact, in Orange County. But I'm fine as long as it's a certified verbatim of what transpired. I'm fine. However way we want to go about it, I'm okay with that. But great suggestion. Thank you, Dr. Gardner.
Mr. Mayor and council, if I can chime in, if indeed the council's direction is to produce verbatim minutes, because the clerk's office is responsible for the minutes that are approved by the council, any contract for an outside service to produce those minutes would have to come through the clerk's office and through the city. Councilmember Nick is correct that it's an onerous burden and one that likely would be contracted out to an outside agency, but would have to go through the city.
Okay. On that basis, I'll second it.
And I'll make a substitute motion that we take council meetings to save the city staff. Why push it forward? So I'll make a substitute motion that we take minutes as clerk's offices.
Again, before we vote on the substitute motion, I want to make sure everyone understands this. I am asking for a verbatim, that means word for word, as to who said what. If we have nothing to hide, if we have nothing to hide, listen to me. If we have nothing to hide, we should have no problem with having in writing what we said. Word for word. And I am
Okay,
I'm not
you're
finished.
shut off. No, you're shut off now because we're just closing debate on that. The fact is that if we took it word by word,
Is that what you said, shut up?
No, I said I didn't say. I said closing debate.
You said shut up,
No, I
right?
didn't say. I said closing debate. I never said the word shut up.
Well, in any event, we have a substitute motion.
Well, and maybe, can I ask Councilman Nick, maybe elaborate more why you want verbatim?
I was told to stay quiet.
No,
Can I?
Go ahead. Yeah.
So, do I shut up or not?
Okay, we're good. What did you use? Okay, go ahead.
So what is your question exactly, Andrew?
It just maybe a rationale.
I don't need to offer a rationale. All I'm saying is I will offer you a rationale. I have no problem with that, but I don't.
Just why you
Well,
want that.
It doesn't matter. It's none of your business, with all due respect. All I'm saying is I want.
It does have to do with our business because
No,
it's people's money.
It's my money. Did you not hear that?
Oh, did
I am offering to pay for it, and I pay ahead of time.
We've heard that before only.
No, you heard that before, yes, but you changed on me. You lied to the court, so you changed, I changed. Let's not rehash the past. Let's not rehash the past, Scott. This is not the time or place.
You don't have to answer. I just was curious if there was a reason why you want verbatim.
I want to make sure that this city has in its records exactly why you folks claim to have censured me. I spoke my mind. I'll say that again and again, twice on a Sunday. I spoke my mind. I am an American just like you guys are, except I get censured. Why? To this day, I look at what the city clerk provided, which is a fair, accurate reflection. I still cannot ascertain why it is that I was censured for telling the truth. But none of this matters. None of this matters. Let's focus on the issue at hand. I am asking for a verbatim, and I understand one of my colleagues here doesn't understand that term. It means word for word. All I'm asking is for a word for word transcription of that one item that had to do with censuring me by my colleagues, by 3 of my colleagues. And I said, I can provide that, or, in fact, what the city attorney said is quite accurate. Because it is part of the records of the city has to go about securing it. Fine. If they give me their chosen firm, I'll call it ahead of time and give them my credit card number. All it takes is one phone call to a firm. That's a 60-second task. And Mr. Voigt is trying to say staff's time. No, it's not really. Yes, it would be staff's time if the staff was going to do it. The staff's not going to do it. In fact, I don't even think the staff is equipped to provide a certified transcript. The staff makes one phone call, 30 to 60 seconds, emails them the video. I call them, give them my credit card number. So long as it's a good number, 48 hours later, it gets emailed to the city. Not even, in fact, not to me. They're not going to provide it to me. They provide it to the city because the city is the one who contracted them. Then the city provides it to us. As simple as that. No time is wasted. If there's any money wasted, it's my money. But I want to hold my colleagues accountable for what they said or what they did not say.
Yeah, I don't think I'm adverse to your motion.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
So, just all I'd ask is that maybe I'm just trying to keep the peace. Maybe Mr. Mayor didn't hear you say verbatim, and you don't have to respond. But I'm just saying, I'm trying to give everyone the benefit of the doubt here, and so maybe staff can provide some maybe quick if Councilman Nick wanted to pay for this, and he's saying he would. Is there maybe some procedure? Would he be direct billed by the vendor? Is there anything that you can provide? Does he want to? Do you want to require a deposit? You know, it could be.
Mr. Members of the Council, I'm not sure the staff's prepared to answer that question here and tonight because it may require additional steps to ensure that who that payment goes to and how it works. Certainly, if the council desires to do that, we'll figure it out and work with Council Member Nick to ensure that it's done properly.
Or alternatively, Mr. Danik, he can take it out of my salary. For the last 2.5 years, I haven't picked up a dime, so I think the city owes me $20,000+. Of course, I'm being facetious there, but
I'll withdraw my alternative motion since you've been so graciously offered to put up. I think that our clerk does an excellent job in putting the minutes together, but if you want to verbatim.
Sir, my offer of payment was on before you made your motion. It was on from the first moment I started speaking.
Okay, I missed. So with that, any further discussion?
Can we just clarify the motion again, that your motion is that you want a verbatim?
Yes, sir.
That the city can pick the vendor and
Absolutely.
Also can procure the services, and that you will pay for the services or reimburse however the city staff determines.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you for your support.
In advance.
I'm sorry?
In advance.
In advance, doesn't matter. Like I said, you guys don't like it, take it out of my salary.
Cast your votes.
I thought Stephanie did a terrific job, too.
Yes.
Thank you, Stephanie.
I must go on the record once again to say how exhaustive that was. Several pages.
That motion carried unanimously.
Okay. Now to
Agenda item 6, award of contract for building and safety services submitted by Director of Development Services and removed from the consent calendar by Mayor Pro Tem Hamilton. And, Your Honor, I do need to say that we do have a request to speak on this item in the event it had been removed from the consent calendar. So whenever you'd like to see that.
Yeah, I'd like to have that request. Who was that?
Terry Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. My name is Terry Rodriguez. I'm the president of Interwest Consulting Group. We've been providing building and safety services for the past 6 years and been honored to do so. And I just wanted to, if it got pulled, request to speak to let you know that I'm here. If there are any questions about our services or our proposal this evening, I'd be happy to address those or answer those. And that's my only comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bring it back to Mayor Pro Tem Hamilton.
So I just wanted to commend staff. This will be brief. 7 bidders, 5 were qualified, and I think I'm excited to vote for this. That's all I have to say about that topic.
Yeah, I did some work on my own home and had the services. I thought they were excellent.
So is there a motion on the table?
Yeah, I'll move that item.
Second.
Gentlemen, cast your votes.
That motion carried unanimously.
That brings us to discussion action items.
Agenda Item 7, Establishment of Ad Hoc Citizen Traffic Advisory Group, submitted by Director of Public Works, City Engineer.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, we do have a brief staff presentation this evening, so with your indulgence, Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it over to Tom Wheeler for that presentation.
Excuse me, thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you. On January 6th, as part of the incoming remarks for Mayor Voights, he proposed the formation of an ad hoc committee. And with that, City Council provided consensus to agendize that item, and Council directed staff to bring it back. Staff is bringing it back tonight for further discussion. We recommend that City Council exercise its discretion and provide further direction to staff. We provided just some brief background slides, a proposed potential mission statement, and some group details to help guide the conversation that Council may want to have. With that, part of the core responsibilities that the City provides is traffic management services. The City manages peak hour traffic. We improve the community's traffic network. We mitigate development impacts. We respond to community concerns. And with that, the different types of citizens' input we get, certainly on a daily basis and through our email and ALF systems. We have a community satisfaction survey, which we perform every 2 years. We had traffic education forums last year. And we're here tonight to talk about the Ad Hoc Citizens Traffic Advisory Group, CTAG, because we need more acronyms. And that's the best we could come up with. But of course, all open for discussion. So part of the discussion, we thought it would be great to start with a mission statement, or at least something to help guide or give us a purpose, or give the group a purpose. This one is something staff came up with, again, a draft mission statement, really for the group to provide recommendations to the City Council regarding overall strategies and processes to improve long-term traffic conditions throughout the city, including how to provide future citizen participation without creating another permanent layer of bureaucracy, which is something the Mayor had mentioned during his speech. With that, there's also logistics details which may help, again, inform the discussion regarding duration of this group, number of members, your selection process of the members, number of meetings you expect to see, the format, and the type of staffing and or expenses that would be incurred with that. These are some options in staff's recommendation, again, to start and facilitate the conversation. And with that, certainly staff is available for any questions and discussion items that you may have.
With that, do we have any public comments?
We've had no requests.
All right. Well, with that, I'd like to say thank you to the staff. Thank you for a great job. Obviously, we're a city that's growing, and it's important to get the public's opinion. That's why we've had our citizen traffic meetings out there at different locations throughout the city. And so I'm excited about what you've done here and laid out. I think that the only thing that I would add is my take on it. I'd make a motion that we accept the suggestions, but limit it to 7, not 8 or 12. I want it to be would like it to be an odd number if you get consensus here. But the fact that way we don't get locked in with a 4-4 vote or a 5-5 vote. So I think 7 would be a great number. It's an odd number, and the fact is I like that you guys will bring in specialists that further the education of the people of where we're at and what we can do. So with that, I'd like to make the motion that we accept this staff recommendation, limiting it to 7 members, and as up to 12 meetings. I'd like to have discussion.
Yeah, I think the 7's a good idea. I'm not sure we should be so restrictive to say each meeting could cover one specific issue. I don't think we want to hold them to that, but otherwise, a good job. And I see no reason not to go ahead. I'm a little worried. The only thing I'm worried about is bringing it to appoint all of them through the council, to go through it like it's a commission thing that's a long process. Maybe we should do it, maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we should just appoint like a chairman and a co-chairman and let them go assemble the committee rather than put that whole process going through it. I have mixed feelings about that. Otherwise, I like the report.
Appreciate the staff's presentation here. I'm fine with what's been discussed thus far. I think 7 members probably makes sense. Doesn't get too big. Agree with the odd number issue. Keeping the meetings 4 to 12 sounds good, depending on how quickly they can move through issues. I think that flexibility is good. I would like to see us actually make the appointments. I think that just want to make sure that we're getting the right feedback. And so, although a chairman and vice chairman or whatever it might be able to help speed that process up a little bit, I think the staff can help us make sure that that goes smoothly and quickly. So I feel confident with that.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I have a rhetorical question for Mr. Wheeler. Did you move your seat back because you were expecting some eggs to be thrown your way from previous council meetings? Rhetorical. So with that, I think I'm open to a traffic committee, and I think I want to add just a little bit additional to that mission statement, and something to the effect of maybe traffic mitigation or something. Let me go back to that page.
It's up on the screen.
Okay. Maybe overall traffic mitigation or traffic something strategies and processes, just to make sure that it truly is traffic related and not, hey, let's not build any roads or other things like that. Even though that wouldn't be a mitigation, that could be someone could decide, hey, let's not do something and make a policy that isn't traffic related. So that's why I think adding traffic mitigation or something to that effect that staff would.
So my suggestion is right after conditions, just add the word "and" traffic mitigation throughout the city. Okay.
Also, I don't know if it necessarily
After
needs to be in the. I don't necessarily think it has to be part of the mission statement, but I really want to stress that the goal of this committee would be to reduce overall citywide wait times. And so, if there were 100 cars sitting in an intersection and they all waited 1 second, that's 100 seconds. And if you have a single car waiting in the intersection for 100 seconds, those are like comparable times. So I think the focus should be on major thoroughfares and not like little one-off things like that, focusing on roads with the most cars. And it's not for like a personal benefit. It's not going to be, hey, I want on this committee to improve the street light at my on my way home.
I think those are all good points, but I think it's assumed.
Right.
So are you volunteering to be chair of the traffic ad hoc?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I think some other things that might be interesting is should we be giving a priority to Lake Forest residents, i.e. traffic coming in from other cities like Mission Viejo or Irvine, say in the morning commute, or vice versa, going away from the 5 up toward, that traffic coming into the city, whereas folks that are living in the city and maybe coming down from the hills and other residences in the city going in kind of those directions. So not saying that it has to be, but it's just a potential conversation point. So that's all I had.
So are we moving the item?
The other thing I want to add, it's not in there, but I think it's in all of our minds. In some senses, this committee has to prove itself. We wanted to, not just to sit down and hash and then, et cetera, but to actually come up with some good plans, and there's kind of like a drop-dead date there. You need to, within a year, prove that you can benefit the city, otherwise there's no reason to keep it going. Now, we all understand that, but at some point that committee has to, we're looking for observable results.
Well, we're looking at for a 1-year duration to just so we don't add another layer of bureaucracy in the city. So the fact is that we're a growing city, and if we can address the concerns that we all have as citizens of the city of Lake Forest, I think that can be done in the 1 year. And if needed, we can redo it later. But the fact is, at this time, it will be for 1 year.
Okay, good.
So with that, I'll take a motion.
I'll move it.
Second.
I'll call for the votes, please.
It is and I think we did amend, as amended.
As amended.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you amended the mission statement, I believe, as provided by Mayor Pro Tem Hamilton. That's really the only change, I think, to the motion. Yeah. Okay.
That motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, council, and thank you, staff, for doing a wonderful job. I'm looking forward to some great input from the citizens, so thank you.
Agenda item 8, discussion regarding the Planning Commission meeting submitted by Director of Development Services.
Mr. Members of the City Council, this was placed on the agenda by the council at the request of Councilmember Robinson. The staff has nothing further to that at this juncture, so we'd be glad to respond to any questions that the City Council may have.
Do we have anything from the public?
We've had no requests.
Okay, then bring it back to Councilman Robinson.
Pretty straightforward and simple for me. In looking at the Planning Commission agendas and the duration of their meetings over the last couple of years, I've noticed that they've had a number of occasions where they just haven't had items on the agenda. And so I'd like to scale back the number of Planning Commission meetings we have to once per month, and then I think on an as-needed basis, just like you do with council meetings, there could be special meetings if there's an issue that needs to be addressed more quickly. But I think that that would be probably in the best interest of staff time, legal time, and the expenses that we incur. So that's my motion, that we move meetings to once per month rather than twice.
I'll second.
And I'll make the motion. That are you making that? Okay. Okay. Fine.
You know, I'm in general agreement with this. I just know that there are some times that applicants need something right away, and I know that's the intent of yours is to as needed. So just kind of restating what Councilman Robinson stated has said. So I'm in support of this.
So anything further, or could call? Oh, please, Mel.
Mr. Mayor, council members, if I can just chime in real quick. The Lake Forest Muni Code, specifically Chapter 2.06 and Section 2.06.080 to be specific, requires that the council set the meeting schedule of commissions by a resolution. So if staff could come back with a resolution for consent calendar at the next council meeting reflecting this action, that would be in line with the Muni Code.
So we're going to add that to our motion tonight. Okay. Is it accepted?
That's accepted, yes.
Okay.
Accepted.
And by the motioner and the second. So, gentlemen, please cast your votes.
That motion carried unanimously. Agenda item 9, legislative and regulatory matters submitted by City Manager.
Mr. Members of the City Council, the staff was made aware of a particular piece of legislation that was put into the process by Assembly Member Tom Daly regarding the governing board of the Orange County Fire Authority. It's Assembly Bill 1217. We've, as I understand and I believe, Councilmember Robbins could speak more to this issue, but the executive committee, I believe, or maybe it was the full board of the Fire Authority, asked that its member cities provide some input relative to this issue. The staff's laid out some concerns about this legislation for council's consideration, and staff's recommendation is that you oppose this bill unless it's amended given its current form. We'd be glad to respond to any additional questions, and of course, as I mentioned, Councilmember Robbins is, I think, very aware of this bill. With that, if there's any other issues that the council wants to bring up, then clearly the staff would be glad to respond to any questions about this or any other item that you have.
All right. First of all, do we have anybody from the public?
We've had no requests.
And then bring it back to our representative to Orange County Fire Authority, Dwight Robinson.
I've only been sitting on this board for since the beginning of this year as a full member. I was an alternate for former Mayor Catherine McCullough, and so I had the opportunity to attend a couple meetings last year. I do feel like it's a significantly large board. At any given meeting, there can be 25 members sitting up at a dais like this, trying to make decisions on issues. And as you notice in our meeting tonight, a lot of the issues, there's very little controversy, but when there is controversy and difference of opinion, it can be very difficult to try to wrangle 25 people into an actual vote. I've noticed in politics and in government, local government specifically, sometimes the easiest decision to make is to punt, so to not make a decision at all. And that does happen on occasion with that particular board. All that being said, I think this particular bill does a disservice to the 5th Supervisorial District, where, as you'll notice in the staff report, we have 11 cities that are all represented in the Fire Authority. And then you take District 4 as an example, where Buena Park is split up in District 2 and 4, and then Placentia is in District 4. So they could have a representative from Buena Park and Placentia, or I don't know how the populations work, but there could be more of Buena Park in District 2, and Placentia would get 2 votes, and then all of South Orange County would get 2. So I definitely think that as this bill is currently written, it doesn't make any sense. So I would definitely support the staff's recommendation here to oppose this bill in its current form, unless it's amended to a point where it's something we would want to reverse this decision with. But at this point, I think we should send a strong message that we should oppose it, just because it doesn't give adequate representation to South Orange County.
With that, I'll second that. And with Lake Forest is the top of the South Orange County cities, and it's a huge landmass, but not only a landmass, it's a huge region for the Orange County Fire Authority to represent, and for them to exclude so much of the population and whittle us down to 2 members, much like the city of Santa Ana and the Central County, I think is taken many of our cities outside the discretion of what's best for the Orange County Fire Authority. So I think that we're asking for a fair seat at the table. I'll make that motion to second, to open for discussion.
Completely agree with what you're saying, Councilman Robinson. Do you think we should send, along with the strong message, hey, here's a potential of a way that the bill could be remedied, or do you think we should just say, don't support, strongly don't support it?
Personally, I think opposition, as it's currently written, give the author the opportunity to amend it as they desire. But I don't want to get into trying to dictate how this should be put together at this point. I think that in its current form, the bill is just a bad bill.
Okay.
And so, if they're going to solicit information, we should definitely provide that. But at this point, I think it's just better to oppose this bill in its current form and not get into it, because, frankly, we could have some suggestions, but I would guess that the other 10 South Orange County cities will also have some suggestions. So if the suggestions weren't in concert with one another, it could potentially create more confusion than anything. So
would you recommend even saying something to the effect of disproportionate representation?
Absolutely, I think that's
Okay.
Yeah, and I think staff would probably already be including that in just a general, basic explanation of why we're opposing it, but, yeah.
And I call for the vote. Please, gentlemen, cast your votes.
That motion carried unanimously.
And then on this topic of legislation, we've been representative here by Doctors Ambulance for many, many years, and it's been taken away from the city's discretion on who provides the ambulance service in our city, and so it's been taken into a outside committee, which is heavily laden with North Orange County people that voted to award basically the majority of the whole county to one ambulance provider, which in some minds would be considered a monopoly. And I think that we risk the fact that we may be shortchanged if ever a natural disaster were to come. I know that Orange County Fire Authority does a wonderful job in helping rescue people and stuff, but transportation is still left up to private ambulance services. And so I'd like to, if I could get consensus, to have city manager and me as the mayor write a letter of concern to the way that it was dictated, the new ambulance services, and raise up that we are concerned about the county and the ability of this one provider to take on so much of the land mass of the county of Orange. So if I could open up that.
Who would the letter be directed to?
It'd be, would that be directed to Orange County Fire Authority? That because it's outside their hands now too.
Mr. Members of the City Council, I believe the City Attorney wants to chime in, but the response to that last question, pursuant to state law, the decision as the state has dictated about the provision of ambulance service, because it's a monopoly, fundamentally under law, is resting with the Board of Supervisors. They're the ones who are going to actually let a contract. So you'd want to direct your
concerns.
And quite honestly, the process was created by the county and its Health Services Department. So that's probably the proper place to send any correspondence.
Mr. Mayor, council members, just a minor technicality. If it's possible to transfer this discussion and request for consensus to the council comments portion, since it's not technically legislative in nature, we can then, when that portion of the meeting arises, you can bring this up.
Right.
Make your motion, get a second for consensus, and we can proceed as discussed.
All right. Then we'll postpone this.
If there's other legislative items, is it appropriate to discuss those at this time too? Mr. City Attorney?
I'll chime in for the City Attorney. Yes, it is. This would be the proper time. It's listed in a broad sense if the council has other bills that you know of and feel that you want to have the council be made aware of. This is the proper time to do that.
There is one that pertains to water, and we actually have a water official with us tonight, and it's SB 355, a state senate bill, which actually pertains to water in North Orange County, and it will affect groundwater in the county of Orange. But if we could, would you like to? I make a motion that we oppose SB 355 because it takes our Orange County representative off that board.
I agree. I think this is an important bill to oppose. I think it tries to do similar to, I think, it's a consolidation, trying to reduce the amount of members, but it doesn't seem fair to Orange County. So,
and it puts all the decision making into San Gabriel Valley and Los Angeles officials, when it actually, right now, in the history of this, it's allowed Orange County representation of that. So they're trying to take the Orange County representative off that. So that would be my reason for opposing this bill.
Just for clarification, if I haven't looked at it because I haven't seen it yet, but what you have in front of you, but the way I understand the bill, there's currently, is it 2 members and they want to take one off, or is it completely eliminating the Orange County?
It's 3 members taking one off.
I don't know.
7.
I don't know the exact, but it looks like it's 20, 13 voting, 7 non-voting. Currently 2 from Orange County.
Okay.
Mr. Members of the Council, I believe, in looking at the bill, there's 2 members. This would remove one of them and leave one.
Do we have any, does staff have any information about this bill at this point? Are you familiar with, I know there's like 4,000 bills, so I don't expect you to, but I'm just wondering.
The staff's been made aware of the bill through discussions in the county. There was a request that the city consider this bill, and for the purposes of I guess, Orange County speaking as one voice,
okay.
Fundamentally. The recommendation was that every city consider opposing this legislation, and so there's a couple of bills that we were looking at that would probably come at your next meeting. Of course, we know the legislative process is a long, drawn out with a lot of hearings, and so if it were critical, we might have put it on tonight, but actually we were thinking about next time. But if the council wishes to oppose the bill, I think the staff's position would be only for the sake of unity in Orange County would make sense to do that.
Okay, yeah, because it probably has very little effect for us. It's just providing another Orange County voice saying.
It does. It doesn't affect the city of Lake Forest per se, because we're not in the San Gabriel River watershed.
Yeah.
But certainly there are cities in Orange County that are affected by San Gabriel River watershed, and so they're seeking our additional support so that their opposition has a greater voice.
Okay. I have a very limited understanding of the bill so far, and I haven't had a chance to read it tonight, so, trying to speak as one voice for Orange County, I would probably support opposing this bill. But I would like to try to take a look at it, so if we could just put this on the agenda for 2 weeks from now, I'd appreciate just the consideration. So I can
As the motion maker, I have no problem with that, so we'll put that on to the further agenda, please. And then we have one more that I think that we'll put for the future agenda meeting too, so I nothing further.
I have a regulatory issue I wanted to bring up.
Well, I think closing comments.
No, a regulatory. Or is that for closing? I can do it in closing comments.
Item 9, the legislative and regulatory matters, so that would qualify under item 9.
Okay.
Mr. Gardner.
Okay. I met with the IRWD, some board members and staff today. Amongst the many things that I was interested in talking to them about was the repiping of Lake 1 and Lake 2 for reclaimed water, because that's, just incredible waste. And they indicated to me that they were fully in favor of doing that. And the problem was up in Sacramento with the agency who regulates what they do with reclaimed water. And apparently, so far, they're refusing to okay reclaimed water for what they're calling decorative lakes or decorative bodies. So I was hoping that we could liaise with IRWD and find out how we could, use our support as a city to help them in their lobbying with this agency to get decorative lakes put on the list of approved uses for reclaimed water.
So you're asking for staff to go forward with that process and opening up the door of channel?
Yeah.
And I've also had some discussions with them on that topic, and I think it has to do with the recycled water potentially spilling. And where does it spill? It would spill into a creek, and so, in essence, recycled water would then be discharged into a creek, and it's not a potable, water source. So I think I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but it feels like there is a high hurdle, like right now, because of that. So.
And yet, it's interesting, from the Muirlands plant, they pour thousands and tens of thousands of gallons of reclaimed water when they have the surplus and the creek and the agency there overflows, they pour that right into the creek. So they're doing that now. It's a paradox, and I think it just needs pressure and education in Sacramento.
So what are they suggesting for the decorative lakes? I mean, do they want us to pour Evian? I'm just doesn't make so.
All right. Seeing nothing further, it brings us to City Manager's report.
Nothing further, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Councilman Gardner.
Okay, following up on that, I got some really good news in talking to them. IRWD, continuing that conversation. I'm on the board of Lake One, and we were led to believe it was going to cost millions of dollars to repipe from Muirlands down to Lake One. But apparently they have a recycled spigot not far from Lake Two. So in piping from Lake Two to Lake One through the woods is really not that much of a problem. So in the event that we overcome that regulatory hurdle, we don't see, multi-million-dollar need for a project. So just some information, good news for us in that regard. On permit parking, Vince is here. Thank you for being here. About either the last session or the session before that, one of our residents came up and talked about the permit parking and some of the problems that he had observed, and I have observed those problems myself in two separate occasions. What seems to be happening, and by no means I'm saying this is happening, but it seems to be happening, and I talked with Doug, he's not here, Anderson, and it looks as if people who are getting permits are not necessarily using their garages and driveways fully, so that when they get permit parking, they begin to be a little more using their garages more for storage, because now they have permit parking. So it seems to be, and they're moving out into the areas that are previously been occupied by the people who they claimed had impinged on their areas. And that seems to at least be a possibility in two separate sections in a recurring theme. So following up on that and talking with the city attorney, what I'd like to do when permit parking comes back to us, which it is going to come up pretty soon because other people are asking for permit parking, as a show of good faith in our ordinance, I would like the people who are asking for permit parking to show that, in fact, their garages are being used for cars and their driveways are being used for cars. And under those conditions, they don't have street parking. But I think it's a bit presumptuous, or it's not fair for people who are using their garages for storage and not using their driveways to then be coming to us and asking for permits. So I'd like consensus to have the city attorney do a little more research. He's done some preliminary research to indicate that we would be able legally to require, as a condition of the parking permit, that people allow us to assure ourselves that their garages are, in fact, being used for cars. But for him to come back to us thoroughly, I'd like to get consensus here for him to come back and give us that report when we discuss permit parking.
If I'm not mistaken, we can ask that question when the community comes, but is it fair to judge a whole community if one house is one resident is having
No, and you wouldn't, not every house has to have garages, but surely if 50% were all occupied storage.
Dr. Gardner, if I may ask, are you suggesting...
Hold on. I don't mean... I really apologize for interrupting, but I think you'd make the third person having a discussion about this item, and we can't do that because now it's a non-agendized item in the discussion. So I'm not trying to shut you down.
I was just going to ask a question.
but he turned his mic on.
We can't. Am I right? We can't have three people talking about...
Mr. Mayor, Council, that's exactly right. At this point, you can request consensus of the Council to bring it back for further debate. but we can't have a discussion about items not on the agenda.
Mr. City Attorney, I was not going to discuss this. I was going to ask a question just so I would be clear in my own head and in my own heart whether I want to support it at this point or not. I cannot support something I don't understand. I was just trying to understand it. I wasn't going to opine on it. Just a question.
Okay, your question.
There is the question. I apologize. Say it one more time. What is it you're trying to accomplish here? Are you trying to get the government to be able to go into people's garages?
No, I'm trying to say that people who are asking the government to take the unusual step of giving them sole permission to use this public street should in return demonstrate to us that in fact they're not using their garages for storage. In fact, they are, they do need it rather than they need it for their cars, not for their storage.
I now understand your statement. Thank you. We just wanted to be clear as to whether I understood it right or not. Thank you.
And it wasn't an answer to the mayor's question. I don't know, what the proportion is.
We'll just, is there consensus or moving on? Okay.
So just a question for staff. We're having this parking discussion. It's going to come up already in a future.
You have a couple of instances where there have been requests for permit parking in a specific neighborhood, not a generalized conversation related to our parking permit requirements. I suppose, but I defer to the city attorney, that the request by Councilmember Gardner is to potentially look at a modification to an ordinance or a policy that may or may not then necessarily be considered simultaneously with the instant request for permit parking. You might be able to do that, again, at the advice of the attorney that it would fit within the envelope of a specific location, but nothing would prevent the council from bringing back a more generalized conversation about that, and if it required an ordinance change or anything of that nature, you might want to do it. The question, I guess, is whether you want to consider that prior to the time that you consider any further requests for a specific neighborhood.
Exactly.
Okay, I'll give consensus to have the discussion if we can have it at a time that makes most sense for the staff. I don't want to push it too hard. I don't know what the agenda looks like over the next
No,
week.
and I'm not. I have no time.
Okay.
Yeah, and we need three, so I'll be the third. I just have a question for logistics to Councilman Gardner. Are you just expecting like a short? Are you expecting a full blown? Because I think I'd more support like a shorter staff memo, limited cost. I know you need to do a little bit more research.
Yes, shorter.
Shorter.
Yeah, he kind of used up his regular time, and he said, well, I could pursue this more, so yeah, not a full-blown no.
So maybe another couple hours? Is that what you're... I'm not trying to get too much, but...
Mr. Mayor, Council, it's hard to estimate how long any task like this will take, but I can say based on what I've looked into so far, there's not that much time required to examine the legal issues at play here.
Okay. So I think you have consensus, and I'll add mine to that too. So for limited discussion, is that nothing further?
I have some further. Have I used up my time?
Probably overly, but you go. If you have a little bit more, just make it short.
I have two more. I'll make them both as short as I can. All the troubles that we had with the signs, and we're still talking about those even now, it was my opinion the last time that we shouldn't have opened the signs up to public, so I'd like to bring that back for a discussion.
Are you saying political signs?
Yeah, political signs. I'd like to bring that ordinance back for review.
I think that was something that's on the future agendas anyways, because it was something we discussed about as a one-year trial. And obviously with the theft of signs out there, I think that it was important that we bring that back and discuss it. Okay. So is that on that we can put that up for?
There was a standing request by the council that it's on our list of items We have not scheduled that yet. If the council has a specific date which it would wish to do that, we'd be glad to do it. Otherwise, we'll put it back into the queue.
Put it back in the queue.
Okay.
Okay, my final item, thank you for indulging me. This is probably the more important item, and that is Meals on Wheels. Meals on Wheels, those great people who go out and give the elderly a hot meal. At the moment, we're one of the few cities, we're maybe the only city that doesn't have our own Meals for Wheels here in the city. Our friends in Mission Viejo and Rancho and, I guess, Laguna Hills pick up the slack for us. That means that our residents kind of get, instead of a hot meal, they get a warm meal because they're at the end of the line. And there's a dozen or so people who actually don't get served because they're outside the radius. And we've looked here in the city, and we've looked at the rec center for places. We couldn't find them. Stan Yumbo spent some time, see if I could put it in his hotel. We couldn't do it there. I looked at my HOA. We couldn't do it there. I was very upset after the meeting we went to, and I was sitting in the council office trying to figure it out. And I was sitting in the council office trying to figure out, where do we have an office that isn't used between 10:30 and 12 from Monday through Fridays, and that's got enough storage space for them to move, to work out of? The council office. So if my peers are not too upset, and I know most of you are never in there, or if you're in there, it's very little, I'd like us to donate the use until I can come up with something else as a short-term space to let them use the council office to operate out of, so we can have hot meals going here in Lake Forest.
And just so everyone's on the same page, Meals for Wheels is a nonprofit organization.
Yes.
And all you're asking is for them to use the city space for temporary storage once a week? Is that?
No, the 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, from around 10:30 to, let's say, 12:30. They would operate out of the council office. Basically, their volunteers show up here with a car, and first the hot meal guy shows up, he gives them the hot meals, they package them with milk and, bread, and then the other guy shows up, all volunteers, doesn't cost the city anything, and then we fill them up, and they go out and service our citizens.
So there's not going to be any distribution of the meals here?
No.
It's just a
Not
temporary...
unless you sneak in there and grab a milk. Subject to, we'd have to work it out with the staff.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, I think what we're talking about is the assemblage of product into something that volunteers would then come. So you're looking for a space where people would bring in other products, because we don't have ovens and things to cook that stuff. So it's really someone bringing in food and then using your office for the purposes of putting it in separate containers and someone else coming in and taking it out. But that said, I think that's what the suggestion might be. However, it would require some contractual relationships and issues with the group that actually does Meals on Wheels. It might bear better information if the council were to have this brought back so that we could give you greater details about the nature of the program, and you can have a conversation greater than what you're perhaps limited to do right now under the Brown Act. So it might be best, if you're interested in having further conversation, ask that it be placed on a future agenda.
Yeah, I would support putting it on a future agenda, because I think that, it be in the... Again, across from the clerk's office, I don't think she'd be real excited about the people coming in and out of that when we're trying to get city business done, but to find a location maybe suitable for that in our city hall or somewhere in the city, I think is worthy of us bringing back and the fine work they do, and those are people that are doing good for the community. So I'd support that, bringing it back for future discussion on the location.
I'll third.
Thank you for bearing with me.
Okay. Next, Councilman Nick.
Thank you, everybody, for your respective contribution, especially those west of the podium, because you folks didn't have to be here. We had to be here. Thank you for being here on your own time. My father once told me, the more involved you get in politics, the more you realize how much of a difference you cannot make. But that does not mean you should stop trying. That does not mean you should stop trying. It is demoralizing. I can only trust that you do your due diligence beyond here to learn who's got your back and who doesn't, who looks after you and who doesn't, who has a self-serving agenda and who doesn't. There's nothing in this for me. Nothing. Literally nothing. I don't have friend developers who need rezoning. I don't have friends who own ambulance companies who need the contract with the city. I don't have a friend who owns a building inspection firm that contracts out to cities that contract out for such services. I don't have a dog, which means I don't even have a need for a dog park. I don't have children to advocate additional schools in light of the fact that we're going to have 5,500 houses developed here in the next 4 to 6 years. I just had a text from someone who's watching this. He said, hang in there. Be proud of what you are, who you are, and what you've done. Those who see it, see it. Those who don't, don't. I'm not sure if that's comforting, but it is what it is. And when I'm trying to tell the truth, which should be the easiest thing in life, it is the hardest thing. You keep getting interrupted. And I know what I heard, so. When I'm trying to make sure a record reflects exactly who said what, there's a 15-minute heated debate on that. That should be shameful. Especially from the get-go, I said I would pay for the few $100s or whatever it is. And then a cheap shot is thrown my way. Something about me saying that I was going to pay for some attorney fees, which I did. But that was before the city went about lying about me and my records. On the record, the city lied. This is last summer. I brought that up to the attention of the then Orange County Register reporter, chose not to do anything about it, for reasons that I do know at this point. What I offered was genuine, was wholehearted at the time. I never thought in a million years the city, out of desperation, the 4 council members at the time, 2 of whom are sitting to my immediate left at the moment, and 2 of them who are gone, in collaboration with the substitute city attorney, Wildish, I believe the name is, will tell lies on the record to the Court of Appeals of California. And to my detriment, they got away with it. I brought that to the attention of then Mayor Robinson. He said, well, if you want me to help you with that, you need to resign. I brought that to the attention of the city manager at the time, who I think the world of. And I never followed up because it really wasn't my right. I don't know if he did something or not. I can only think, knowing him, I know he did what he could, which did not amount to much. But I do hold the 4 council members at the time responsible for that lie that determined the fate of the case. That will all come to light at some point. You, Mr. Roscoe, you need to do a better job. Your last report was incorrect. I would have expected that of your predecessors, Erika Ritchie, who was an airhead. Go ahead, censure me. And then Sarah, who was incompetent. I expected more of you. You reported in print that it was a unanimous decision to censure me. It was not. You looked me in the eye and you said you would run by me so that I would make sure, so that I could make sure your stories were factually correct. You did not. You had a lengthy conversation with Mr. Robinson 3 weeks ago tonight. The next paper I read some incorrect information. Whether there was a causal effect or not, I do not know. Only you know that. But this is not right. You have a duty to report accurately. I offered my help to make sure that you did just that. You did not take me up on it. It's very disappointing. Thank you, and thank you for allowing me to go beyond the 5 minutes. Good night, everybody.
That brings us to Councilman Robinson.
I attended the Orange County Fire Authority meeting in late March, and that's all I have to report, so thanks.
Brings us to Mayor Pro Tem Andrew Hamilton.
You know, I just wanted to hope everyone had a blessed Easter. My family celebrated here in Lake Forest at Saddleback Church. I also enjoyed last week's 5-year strategic business plan special workshop with the City Council, Planning and Parks Commissions, and previous council members. I think it definitely exceeded my expectations, and I wanted to thank staff for their time. And just a quick question, I guess. I should have asked you earlier, but since we're here, the 2-year strategic plan, when was that coming up again? The agenda item that we kind of consent?
Yeah, the process under the 5-year plan, excuse me, just a moment, is for the staff to take all of the ideas and issues that were identified. We're going to bring those back. Our actual endeavor is to bring it back at your next meeting, so you have that conversation prior to your budget workshop, which is scheduled in May. If we don't meet that goal, we'll certainly bring it all to you at the first meeting in May.
Okay. Just wanted to mention, thank you for the reminder, Councilman Gardner, that there's a special needs dance this Friday. I think it's here, right? 7 p.m. And with that, we've got one more week until April 15th. So wish everyone luck in the next week getting everything done if you're not done with your taxes yet.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, staff, for the wonderful staff report you did tonight. I love the ad hoc, traffic ad hoc. I think that one of the things that I hear time and time again from people outside the city is that some of our thoroughfares, maybe not all of them, but some of them are excellent pass-throughs through the city. One of them being a pass-through on El Toro Road to Santa Margarita, that they come from South Orange County, Aliso Viejo, and come to our city to go through our city because the traffic lights work so well. So I'm looking forward to the input of the citizens. And I want to bring up the success of our sports park is something that's going throughout the county of Orange. Is not only one of the best sports parks in Orange County, I would venture to say it's one of the best sports parks in all of Southern California. I hear it time and time again from whether it be Little League or adult softball, club soccer, AYSO soccer, which just recently had their Western Regional Championships in our city, brought over 11,000 people to the city of Lake Forest. And so if anybody tried to go through our sports park 2 weeks ago, it was a traffic jam because we were totally overwhelmed with people from outside the community. And I can't tell you how many comments I got that just raved about our sports park. And at that time, we have some more that are coming up. And so with that, I'd like to put on the future agenda or put it for staff in fact, this maybe would be a staff item, city manager, for us to go over and maybe bring forth maybe an ad hoc that would go over field allocations with city staff or have the staff. I just would like the staff to look at the user fees and that once more and maybe take it as more of a regional park instead of a city park because of the use that we're getting in our basketball courts, and it's just a huge amount of people coming to wanting to use our park, and so I'm just looking for ways that we can best allocate that. So.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, just very quickly, the staff's in a process right now, looking at the field allocation process and updating that with fees. So eventually, as required, to come back to the council.
All right, that would be good. Then there was one more thing. We have a housing authority here in the city of Lake Forest, and through that we've done some updates and purchased some properties and have done some low-income housing through that. But what I'd like to see, Orange County Rescue Mission does housing for veterans, and I think that they've already made a request, and so I'd like the staff and maybe include a city council member or two, maybe make an ad hoc with that, and so have staff reach out to Orange County Rescue Mission. They've already sent letters to us, and that and see about possibly veterans housing in Lake Forest. I know that some of the surrounding cities, I know the Orange County Sheriff Department has identified nearly 50 homeless vets that live in the city of Lake Forest, and so something that we can do maybe in conjunction with or look into.
If it's the desire of the council for the staff to reach out and let them know what our available affordable housing projects might be in the future, we certainly can do that. We don't have one currently, but certainly when we get into the conversations, I think about budget, where we might be allocating all of those. I know the council previously has expressed some interest in veterans housing, so that might be one of the conversations that you have at that juncture. Okay. But we in the interim can, I think we already know they're interested, but we can certainly send them another letter and say, are you interested if that opportunity presents itself, come back to you when we come back for budgetary conversations related to the Housing Authority.
All right, or respond to the request they've made right now, maybe have them come and sit down with us. And
I'm not sure what request they have made right now.
I just was told that they had. So.
Okay, I'm not aware of that, but all right, we'll take a look at that.
All right, thank you. Nothing further.
Mr. Mayor, just a reminder, if we wanted to return to the item regarding the ambulance service at this point in the meeting. Okay.
Doctor's Ambulance has had a long reputation of servicing South Orange County, and the fact is that the County of Orange is a huge conglomerate of 34 cities, and I'd like to see that it brought to the Board of Supervisors' attention that we're concerned about coverage and secondary service. If I can get consensus from the council.
Yep.
You got it. Nothing further. And with that, I thank you guys all for being here and getting out a little bit early tonight. So with that, I'd like to close the meeting. Thank you.